what you can expect in today's episode of Kingdom Commerce. I'll be interviewing Dr. Kary Oberbrunner, Barry Chair of Entrepreneurship at Cedarville University. He's also the founder of EasyIP as well as Igniting Souls Publishing. He is the host of the eMind podcast, and he's been a mentor to me. We're going to be discussing his journey as he's going through trying to figure out how to scale EasyIP, his company, his intellectual property company that seems to be gaining a lot of traction. Additionally, we'll be talking about his role as a professor at Cedarville University and how the entrepreneurship org is growing and the exciting things there. Thank you all for watching this episode, and we're starting right now. Dr. Kary Oberbrunner, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Great to see you.
Yeah, I'm really appreciative to have you on today because you've really been informative in my entrepreneurial journey. You pretty much been there since day one. I have right here. I think the first time I heard you talk, you gave me the Igniting Souls little thing here. You said like that you believed in me, and you believed in the entrepreneurial journey, what could be accomplished, and so
wow.
Excited you're on today. For our listeners, if y'all haven't seen our previous episode with Dr. Oberbrunner, I highly recommend. If you're watching, it'll be up there. So quick introduction, Dr. Oberbrunner. He's the Barry Chair of Entrepreneurship at Cedarville University. He's the sponsor for the Entrepreneurship org. He's the founder of Igniting Souls Publishing and EasyIP, which is he's doing some really cool stuff with that. So today we're going to talk about his involvement with those things and how the Lord is working through him. So yeah, thanks, Dr. Oberbrunner. And what's going on?
Yeah, man. Super. Well, listen, man, on a personal note, I'm taking my son to Colorado tomorrow. He has a friend who he went to high school with, but then that friend moved away. So he's like, hey, Dad, can I go to Colorado? And he's 18. He's going to be a freshman at Cedarville. So we're super excited. But, rather than just put him on a plane by himself, I thought, you know what? What if I go with you? We play golf the first day. You go to, because I don't play golf at all. My son plays golf. My son, watches the cars, the watches, and plays golf. So I guess he would be like the typical entrepreneur. He watches the stock market. I don't do any of that stuff. I don't care about my watches. I got two that are like, what the heck, man. So I drive a minivan. I got cheap watches, and but what I am doing is I'm cycling up Pikes Peak by myself, and then the next day I'm cycling up Mount Evans. So I'm doing two 14,000 feet mountains back to back. I've never cycled in Colorado. I hear the air is crazy thin, and I've been reading blog posts that say like, you could die. So anyway, that's like what's going to happen the next 72 hours, man.
Well, that's exciting. I've been to Pikes Peak once, and yeah, we hiked it, and that was pretty wild. So you definitely the air is you don't, when you're from the Midwest, you don't really, it takes a second. So yeah, best of luck to you. But hey, you've been to France and done all those things, so I feel like you'll be just fine.
We'll take pictures, and but no, it's been this has been a season of travel, so during Cedarville, I try not to travel that much, but in the last, like this summer, I will have been to speaking in North Carolina, London, doing a thing in France. We'll be doing Chicago, did Toronto, and I think I'm missing something in there. There's a few other things, Wisconsin, and who knows, man. So it has been pretty intense. Not gonna lie, a lot of travel, but we've been getting the word out about the businesses, and so there's been a lot of good souls ignited.
That's awesome. Kary, could you talk to us a little bit about your business, EasyIP, and just, like the exciting things that have been happening? Because I've been watching on social media, and it just seems like there's something new happening all the time, and getting some it looks like some
Yeah.
press, and you're getting invited to speaking events. So that's pretty cool. And
Yeah.
then, so tell us a little bit about that story, and then also,
Hmm.
as, as a Christian, how is the Lord working through you?
Mm.
How is He using you to bless other people? And
Yeah.
that sort of deal.
Yeah, man. So I would say on purpose, I have yet to start the marketing for EasyIP. And there's a reason why, and I'll tell you why. Um, when you have a business, you're actually kind of nervous to market it until you have the ability to scale. Okay. So, like, for example, um, EasyIP right now, if you go to easyip.app, anybody in the world can get a free smart contract and try it out. So I didn't know, um, Cooper, that if I spoke in London, I saw, hey, there's going to be 7,000 people over there, over the last 3 days of the event, and I thought, oh my gosh, what if half those people download the free smart contract? Well, you can imagine that we've perfected it, but it actually, let's just say it takes 10 minutes of my team's time. Okay. So if it takes 10 minutes of my team's time and we give a free smart contract, there's a huge danger there, because if 3,000 people downloaded it, that would be 30,000 minutes, I think. No, 3 times 10, I think so. Yeah, 30 times 10, 30,000 minutes. So you do the math. Like, I'm just going to do the math really quick here. So let's just say I pay somebody for 10 minutes, I don't know. Let's just say $10 or something. So $10 times 30,000 minutes, right? Um that is a huge expense. Like, oh my gosh, like that could be like, I'm not great at math or whatever. I would need a calculator, but I mean that could be like five. Let's just say that could be five figures, and maybe I'm wrong, but let's just say five figures. Wow, and five figures that you didn't even know was an expense, and now all of a sudden it's there overnight, and your team just got crushed because, like, could one person handle? Because we say in 24 hours or less. Oh my gosh, like, honestly, it would be impossible. It would absolutely be impossible. So these are the things that, as an entrepreneur, you have these things in your head where you're like, in one way I want to stand on stage and absolutely crush it. Another way is like, oh my gosh, what happens if 3,000 people download your free app with a smart contract? Oh, well, you'll make a lot of money, maybe, but that's only if they upgrade. So these are the things that, as an entrepreneur, like, you always have to have in your mind. And what I realized is, like, I actually don't want EasyIP to blow up until it becomes 100% scalable. So what does it mean to be 100% scalable? It means, I had to write a big check, like a big check, and I had to hire a whole app development team to perfect it and go from 24 hours to 24 seconds. So, like, imagine if we can protect somebody's IP in 24 seconds. Okay. And let's just say instantly, because it would be. So now I have to, now I get a now I'm looking at a meeting, and I have to look and say, is writing a big check worth saving, you know my team's time? And it absolutely is, but I had to go through all those hoops. Okay. And then the other day I wake up, and all of a sudden I have a letter from a lawyer in another country, and the lawyer's like, hey, you got to do this thing, otherwise we're suing you. And I'm like, what? Like, see what I'm saying? Like, Cooper, I'm not even. And by the way, I had walked in the door to my house, and my wife's like, "How you doing?" I'm like, "Hey, great." And we were doing small talk, and then she kind of had a pause, you know, in our chat. So then I'm like, okay, she's taking a pause and doing something. So I checked my email, and I'm like, oh my gosh! I tell Kelly, I'm like, I just got a letter from a lawyer in another country, and he wants to sue us. Like, again, like, everyone's like, oh man, entrepreneurship, but these are the things that are amazing and hard. But then you have other days where, no joke, a billionaire, his name, I won't share his name yet, but he signed with us, and we're publishing his book. And I mean, literally, he's like, here, we ask our authors for pictures, because we build out on Amazon a landing page for them. So he sends us a picture with him and Oprah, him and Elon Musk, him and Richard Branson. And I'm like, wow. Like, so I want people to realize, like, in the span of an hour, you can go from like huge, crushing, like, it's so wild, man. It's so wild.
That's amazing. And so I mean, you're right in the midst of figuring all this out, which is pretty cool because I mean, like you've already said, like you've already like learned so much, and like you didn't even imagine probably that you'd be getting sued from somebody from another country. So I think you're going to be very wise when as you go through your journey, you're going to be figuring all these things out. So that's what we appreciate here at Kingdom Commerce, is just hearing what you've been learning and how you've been growing as an entrepreneur. Um,
But your point, you got to lean into the Lord. Like it literally, like, we just had Q Camp. Q Camp was awesome. Cedarville University Entrepreneurship Camp. I don't know. Did you get to see the trailer yet?
I did not see the no, I haven't seen.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you go on my Instagram and check it out. But our buddy Will Woods did the trailer, and got big shout out to Austin Hamilton, Ben Hutton, Emma Reel, and Libby Greenbaum. They were our 4 counselors. First time ever, Q Camp, high schoolers. You know, back to even more craziness. Like 30 days before the camp, we have 19, and I'm like, 19, man. Like, that's not amazing, but it is our first year. But I'm like, man, we got to do better than 19. So I'm like thinking, how do we market this thing even more? So I like pull out the favors, and Dr. Saplee did great with the Marcom team. And anyway, long story short, FEE, Foundation for Economic Education, boom, we got 47. So we had 47 young people, and we did Shark Tank, and they absolutely loved it. And the highlight reel is there, and it was the first event ever in Schaumburg. Um, but I mean, these are, life is intense, life is great, and but yeah, you got to start with the Lord, because you can go really. My tip would be, um, never celebrate people's compliments more than 30 seconds, and never celebrate haters' comments more than 30 seconds. Because as an entrepreneur, like, you're going to get massive hate and massive love. And if you take the massive love, you'll get a big head. You'll be egotistical. If you take the massive hate, you'll be depressed. So you got to kind of like just take everything to the Lord.
You kind of, it seems like you have to be really like stable emotionally, or like and like confident that, I mean, I would say more of a confident in the Lord, that like your
Yep.
identity is in Him, because as long as you're grounded in that, then what people say doesn't really matter, and it can keep you from sliding into the sin of pride, or the sin of self pity at the same time. And I think that I could imagine, when you're getting invited to speak at all these places, there's the opportunity for you know f- for the dependency to stop coming from the Lord and start to be a self-reliance. Or even when you hear people say things that are like disparaging, it's like, well, who is really my rock, and who's really my identity in all this?
Oh, yeah. 100%. I mean, within a week span, things can go so up and so down. And yeah, I mean, you look at the life of David or whoever in scripture, and it's kind of the same thing where, Esther's thinking she's great, Esther's cool, and then all of a sudden she's like, hey, uh, all the Jews are going to be killed. And then she's like, well, at least I'm not going to be killed. And then her uncle Haman's like, hey, um, you're in a spot and you got to stand up. And if you don't stand up, God's going to bring deliverance some other way. And she tried to get out of it. And then she's thinking, nah, I can't get out of it. Well, you're right. God put me in the spot. I better fast. And then she says, tell the people to fast, because I'm going into the king. And if I go to the king uninvited, he could kill me. Like, it's honestly similar to scripture, the entrepreneur life. In fact, let's talk about that briefly, because everyone loves Hebrews 11. Hebrews 11 is, yeah. Yeah. So the hall of faith, right? And the word entrepreneur means bearer of risk, one who bears risk. So think about it. Faith means risk. If you did not have risk, you would not need faith, right? I mean, if there's no risk, like I can do it. Like build an ark, easy. Okay. So faith and risk are actually the same. And so it says in scripture, without faith, it is impossible to please God. What if we put in there without risk? Wow. You know, so I'm not saying entrepreneurs are more spiritual, because I don't think they are necessarily. I mean, you can be a really jacked up entrepreneur. But I will tell you that if you are living the entrepreneur life, and you know this from clubs, um, I think you might have more opportunity for God to show up than if you are an employee where it's just like, just there to do my job. What do you think? Ooh, that's interesting. What do you think?
It's interesting. You're right when you say, entrepreneurship, there's a lot of risk. And in faith, it's, Jesus says, blessed are those who believe in me but don't see. So like we don't necessarily see God in physical form every day, yet we had faith in him for, the security of our souls. In
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurship, we have no idea if it's going to work out or not, right?
That's
We
right.
have no idea. And so in a sense, I think if you're pursuing the right things in entrepreneurship, like if you're truly saying, Lord, I'm going to do this for you. I want to, do this for your kingdom. I think you are going to be bearing the risk in the sense of like, yeah, it might fail. I might fail. I'm putting my finances, I'm putting my time, I'm putting my resources on the line. And regardless of the outcome, the Lord's going to do what he has intended to happen. But when I'm not doing it for myself, I'm doing it for the Lord. There's a security in my eternal, and there's a security in my identity through it all.
I like
So
that.
I was just talking to Justin Powell and
Yeah.
on an interview, and he was
Good
just
guy.
talking
Yeah.
about, yeah, he's amazing. He's talking about, I mean, he's a very like builder kind of entrepreneur where he's just building things and he wants to build it for uh, God's glory. And I think as entrepreneurs, we are builders building something, and there's a chance that someone can come and break the building down. There's a chance that people can, like you said, they could be haters,
Mm.
and going back to with that risk, there is actually security if we trust the Lord, security in our identity and security in
Yeah.
our faith. So there's like that is that weird like risk, faith, and security balance.
I
So
love it,
it's
man.
something I'm gonna have to draw out, I think, and create a little diagram. But
You gotta create a diagram. That's your next book. I like it though. No, it's true.
I'd love to hear about Q and what you're doing at Cedarville because I think
Mm.
that's just absolutely amazing. Because you're full time entrepreneur, full time professor, as in like I see you putting your energy, and you're putting your full energy. I see into at school. You always, like you say, show up, filled up.
Yeah.
And so I, that's inspiring to me. And I had Will Woods on this episode, or excuse me, this podcast, and he was saying that there's some exciting things. Well,
Oh yeah.
he didn't say on the podcast, but after the fact, he was really pumped up and
Yeah.
really it sounds like some really cool community things. Like it sounds like Q, the entrepreneurship org, is going
Yeah.
to explode in a very positive way. So I want to hear what your thoughts are as someone who's a supporter of that, and what your vision is. And
Mm-hmm.
we may have some listeners here that are looking for a university to go to,
Mm.
and so if they want to be entrepreneurs, then I recommend Cedarville. But
Yeah.
pitch your case, Doctor.
Yeah. 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 Well, first, big shout out to Ruthie Bolt. God just made it so that she was sitting in the very first class that I taught. She was auditing it, and I was testing to see if I would like Cedarville and if Cedarville would like me. And she's sitting there, and I say, "Hey, what are you doing next with your life?" And she said, "I'm moving." But she was the administrative assistant for the whole plaster school business. So I'm like, oh my gosh, God, this is amazing. So I just straight up said, can I hire you? Can I pay part of my professor salary to you, hire you? You work for my company and you work for me as my professor administrative assistant so that I can come in and be amazing as a professor in my unique ability, meaning the teaching and the coaching of the students and the mentoring and all that stuff. And so she literally frees me up from a lot of the admin stuff of the professor so that I can then focus on what I focus on. And what I can focus on then is mentoring people like Will and the whole team for Q. You know, the very first thing we did with Q is I spent some credibility chips a year ago and I said, hey, you guys are called the Startup Society. Can we change the name? And it that was a big ask because you guys had just started the Startup Society, but you know, there was some reasons why we wanted to change it, and some of it was the name, but some of it was also just the meaning of like Startup Society, thinking that, oh, that's just for startups. But Q, Cedarville University Entrepreneurship, was this thing that we could say, um, entrepreneurship is a mindset, not a minor, or a mindset, not a major. And so literally you've seen that entrepreneurship has showed up in the music department. Okay. We've worked with music entrepreneurs. We just showed up in the nursing school. You know, we've showed up in the engineer school. We've showed up in the, the Bible department. Dr. Kimball and I are doing a lot of things together. So is with synergy and entrepreneurship. Yeah, we've showed up in the communications department. Like I could just go on and on and on and about all the schools, but that is the goal, is that Q is not for this like business school people. It's for everybody. And so what do we have coming? We have Q Street. Q Street, CUE stands for Cedarville University Entrepreneurs Streets, Q Street. So just like the ICC, International Center for Creativity, love it. You're doing your master's there, I think, with Cedarville, but just how they have featured products from their students. They developed this, they developed that. I said, look, we need to do that at the Scharnberg. So we are literally, we took the Sesame Street logo and made it our own. Big shout out to the Marcom. So we wanted to like copy their IP, but not steal their IP. So it's Q Street, and like we're trying to make a hallway in Scharnberg to be Q Street, and then people can feature. And this idea came from Anastasia and Eve, where they're like, hey, we should have some marketplace concept. Yeah, yeah. So it's like, boom, next one. First time ever, I think. I don't know, but the business ball. Okay, so we're gonna have a business ball, and it's gonna be. So we went to, just all the amazing people. I believe it was Brian and his team, and I think we went to them, and they're like, "Hey, let's get the whole Cedarville University behind it. Let's have it out at the patio or whatever it's called. I don't even know. You guys all know these terms better than me, But let's have it out there, outside, early in September or something, I think, and it's coming fast. I think about that. And then, afterwards, anybody who's in the business school gets a super cool VIP reception in Scharnberg. The pitch, the moment we did the pitch, we're like, let's do red carpet, let's do pre-show, let's live stream it. So, I mean, like everything that we've done, we're kind of like, let's go bigger. Let's go out of the box. So these are just some things. We're sending Aubrey Colburn and Libby Greenbaum to Quebec in 2 weeks. So they're going to go to what's called the Christian Economic Forum, which, there's the World Economic Forum, which is massively secular and massively humanistic. I mean, there's a whole thing. I could go down that path. I'm not going to go down that path, but there's probably some good stuff they're doing there, but there's probably like a lot of just stuff that's not biblically based. So there's this thing called the Christian Economic Forum, and so we're sending 2 delegates there. Will is bringing amazing guests, so he's like, hey, who are amazing entrepreneurs? And I gave him a list of people like Heather Parody. I had her speak on marketing. She's amazing. So she's coming. This guy named Dwight, who's like this big time entrepreneur. My buddy Steve Distante, who's is a huge entrepreneur. Like we got the Impact Business Conference the week of October 25th and 26th. We're partnering with Christian Business Fellowship. And we're doing like, how do you blend ministry and business together? So my pastor's speaking, my friend's John Giganti speaking, Dean Folks, my pastor. Anyway, like there's so much stuff, man, that's like blowing up.
And no better way to do it than at a Christian university, and like being able to model and encourage these students to entrepreneurially like launch and scale this org. So I think,
Yeah.
in my time, I thought it was really exciting and really formative in creating me as developing me as an entrepreneur. But to see how you guys are even expanding it even farther is just super exciting. And I hope to at least to be a little bit of a part of it when I come and
Oh,
visit.
we're super excited. Yeah.
So absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Oberbrunner. I know this is at the end of our time, but like I said earlier, like you've been such an inspiration to me, and I just appreciate you taking the time to hop on, and perhaps another episode we'll have to dive in deeper to EasyIP or Igniting Souls, or among the other things you're doing. You had the eMind podcast, which I recommend
Yeah.
to check out. How to think like an entrepreneur, right? So thanks, Dr. Oberbrunner, and
Hey, thanks for having me. And you and Luke and are doing awesome. And big congrats to you with your trip to Florida coming up, and your internship, and your working and all that. So proud of you.
exciting season of life. So thank you so much, Dr. Oberbrunner. Y'all, thank you for watching this episode of Kingdom Commerce. We appreciate your comments down below. If you have any questions, or if you want us to interview new guests or have a question for us, we'd love to answer that for you. And y'all build, create, inspire others, and do it all for the glory of God. We'll see you in the next episode. See ya.